What is going on, Wedding Community Podcast? For today's episode, I am joined by Brian Campbell. Brian Campbell is the president and owner of PhotoFlashDrive. If you are a photographer or videographer, I would be really shocked if you have not heard of them. And if you have not heard of them, this is going to be an awesome episode for you because there is a lot of great stuff that they're doing for the photo and video industry, specifically for weddings. But there's a ton of products that they offer and a ton of deliverables that they deliver that every wedding business owner could benefit from. And so I've been personally using them basically since I got started in the wedding business, and we use them for all of our deliverables, flash drive boxes, our awesome Playbook video albums that we use with them. Even back when we were still doing DVDs, we were using them to make our DVD cases. So we've been using them for a while. I really love their product. And so when Brian said he'd be on the podcast, I was super excited to have him on here. So Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Travis. And let me thank you first for being such a loyal and good customer for all these years. And thanks for having us on the podcast. I love to talk about our business. And more importantly, I like to talk about the ways we're able to help photographers, videographers, and really lots of small businesses.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you introduce yourself, Brian?
Sure. Yeah. So, as you said, I'm Brian Campbell. I'm the president and owner of PhotoFlashDrive, photoflashdrive.com. And so we're a company here based in Connecticut, and we've got 20 employees. And we'll go through some of this, I'm sure, on the podcast. Fantastic products, great quality, no minimums, no setup fee, all decorated and shipped right here from Guilford, Connecticut.
Yeah, I want to touch on something you just said, and you mentioned that there's kind of no minimum, and that was actually something that drew us to you because when I wanted to start stepping up our game and not just do download links, I was looking at all these different sites, and it'd be like a minimum of 200 orders or something, and they couldn't be customized for each couple. And for us, it was really important, like we wanted to have our name on there somewhere, but it was more important for me to have like the couple's name front and center. And the
Yep.
fact that like all these places were like, okay, you have to order 200 of them. They just only have one, text on it. You can't change each one. When I saw what you guys were doing, I was like, this is exactly what we need because we're not necessarily shooting 200 weddings a year. We're doing like 30, but we still want to be able to offer something to those 30 couples, and we want it to be unique for each one. So I just love that you guys don't require a minimum. Like I've literally gone on there a few times and ordered one flash drive box, and there was no issues. They were totally cool with it.
Well, and to that point, we also treat the one flash drive as importantly as we do the 100 flash drives, because we understand everybody's business is different, everybody's brand is different, everybody's sense of what they want to do is different, and so we really want to be as flexible as we can to support your business.
Well, I would love to learn a little bit more about your history and how you kind of got started, how you kind of started up Photo Flash Drive, and I would just love to kind of hear the backstory of how that all began and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's a great backstory, and many in your audience are business people, and sometimes when we look back at a history, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when and where we got started. But in the case of Photo Flash Drive, I know it very specifically, and it's a great story, and it's a great business lesson. And I'll tell you, the business lesson is you have to make sure you're talking to the right people. So the story is, I have one daughter, one child, Nicole. She's now 23, but when she was 11, her best friend's father was an amateur digital photographer. And we were in the business of custom flash drives at the time for K through 12 education. So principals were buying flash drives for teachers, librarians were buying flash drives for the students, and it was a nice business and a big business. And he said, Brian, you should be selling your custom flash drives to professional photographers. Now, I thought he was wrong. And I ignored him until the 17th time he said it. And I said, Mike, there's a desk, there's a phone, make some phone calls. Basically, I was giving him the chance to prove me wrong because I really thought it was a non-starter. This was in 2009. So digital was just starting to come into play in a big way in professional photography. So me knowing everything I do, I thought digital rights management and keeping the files and the printing and that sort of stuff, it was going to fly. So he made a bunch of phone calls. 9 out of 10 people hung up on him. So I was right, he was wrong, and PhotoFlashDrive almost wasn't born. Then about 2 months later, we saw about 10 orders in a row on our website that had the name Photo Studio in it. I said, what on earth is happening? So we did what businesses should do. You should contact your customers and have a conversation. And we said, who are you? What are you doing with these flash drives? And how did you hear of us? Well, it turns out they were high school senior portrait photographers using low capacity flash drives for social media promotion. And it turns out they heard about us from a teacher, our K through 12 business, who had received a personalized flash drive from a principal. That teacher wrote a blog and Photo Flash Drive was born. Now, I'll say we called the teacher, we thanked her for the blog, and we had a conversation with her and we said, so we've been making all these phone calls and they're hanging up on us. And she said, you're talking to the wrong people. So we were talking to the then current generation of photographers who were film-based and saw digital as a threat. And we should have been talking to the new photographers that were going to WPPI and some of these progressive shows who they didn't necessarily see digital as an opportunity per se, but they were coming at it from a digital perspective. So this blogger said, you should be at WPPI. That's where the right customers are, wedding and portrait photographer. In fact, you and I were there last year at the show. And so we called, and at the time, Skip Cohen was running it and George Varanakis, and it was just much bigger than it is today, and lots of energy and lots of excitement. We did our first show there, and Photo Flash Drive was born. So that's how it all started. Got to
That's
make sure you're
awesome.
talking to the right people.
That's great. And yeah, it's cool to just hear about how sometimes it's like you almost get forced into doing the business, you know? It's like you were kind of not wanting to go that route and then it ended up being the main thing that your business is about. And it's like you never know where, we have to always kind of be open to opportunities because we never know what kind of opportunity might open some kind of door to something else. Like, that happened with us last year with live streaming and a lot of like other videographers I would talk to, they were very against it. They're like, that's gonna like slow down our process. It's like it's a fad. No one's gonna want it. They're not gonna be willing to pay for it. And we're just like, you know what? I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna invest like 2 grand into this like equipment and just see what happens. And just started kind of mentioning it to our couples that were gonna hold their wedding date, but they had the downsize. They all wanted to do it. I just started booking like all these new brides that were coming to us just because of the live streaming. And then they were like, well, we haven't found someone to do our wedding film. We haven't found someone to do our photos. So because you did the streaming, let's just have you do everything. And we're still getting new bookings this year. So sometimes you just have to, like there's some things where it's like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But when you take that risk, then it ends up paying off and it ends up being like a part of your business or your whole business.
Yeah, and I think some people make the mistake and call that a pivot, and that wasn't a pivot, right? You were looking at the crisis around you, and you were trying to understand the needs of your client, and you were trying to lean into your capabilities. You are all creatives to begin with, right? I like to say exploration is underrated. And we as business people should give ourselves a little more freedom to explore some ideas because often ideas like yours are, I say they're like stepping stones. You have to be willing to go out a few steps before an unobvious idea starts to make sense to you, which I think is exactly what happened for you. In my case with PhotoFlashDrive, I could have been, I'm more experienced. I've run a business. I know all these things. I could have said to Mike, "You're dead wrong. Don't make a phone call." And I don't think PhotoFlashDrive would have been born because with his failure, so to speak, when I saw those 10 orders, it intrigued me in a way that I might not have noticed otherwise. Right.
Yeah. And just think like if you wouldn't have done it, someone else probably would have thought of it. There'd be like a photo thumb drive out there or something instead, but because
That's right.
you acted on it, you were kind of one of the first to the market for it.
That's right. Yeah. And it's been a great journey. I have to say, I love supporting the pro image market because I've supported lots of customers through the years. And, we all reflect on high points and low points in our business. And a high point for me is just it's very enjoyable serving this community. Nice people. They thank you, when somebody spends money and they actually write thank yous, you guys are awesome, and I realize that by and large, it's a community of people that are pursuing their passion. They're choosing to do what they do. They're in a high touch service business. And so they appreciate high touch products and services. So, it's really a great industry. And that's why we like to do whatever we can to support it.
It's cool because there's definitely this like kind of small community feel I feel in the wedding community and like with wedding business owners, where even though we're all over the world and there's so many different DJs and so many different florists, oftentimes what I end up finding is I might meet someone I've never met them before, and then they happen to know someone that kind of knows someone, and it's like everyone's friends, and in some capacity we all know each other and we all like stick out for each other, and I think that's very unique than some other industries. Like we do commercial work and stuff too, and I love a lot of the commercial work we do. But there are some industries that we worked with, and I won't name any names, but like there are some out there where you could just kind of tell. It feels like at any moment they're gonna like turn on you, and they don't like. There's no loyalty there to the service you're providing to them, and there's just this kind of like icky feeling. But I never feel like that in the wedding community. I just feel like everyone's out to help each other.
I have to say, it's in my experience, really, really, really unique. I'm just so delighted with the thought leaders and educators sharing their successes, through all the conferences and those kinds of things. So I came at this originally from a tech perspective. I used to be in computer peripherals and those kinds of things. And, out in San Jose, you wouldn't go to a restaurant without looking around you to see who else was there because you didn't want to divulge your secrets. Here in this industry, you all share your secrets. Here's how I'm being wildly successful, and here's how you can be too. So yeah, I think that adds a lot to the industry.
It's almost this like kind of feeling of the educators like in our industry, they understand that if they're sharing what they've learned, it's only going to help elevate the industry in a lot of ways. Because if say one photographer who's just starting out, they're charging 200 bucks and they're giving away everything. If they go to a conference of this photographer that's charging 10 grand for everything, they're going to be like, shoot, like I don't think I can charge 10 grand yet, but let me like try raising my prices to 2,000 and see what happens. And it kind of is this encouraging thing where we're all kind of helping each other. And then if that photographer that's just starting out is now raising their prices to 2,000, who's not to say that that photographer charging 10,000 can't now raise their prices to 12,000? And it's like this kind of never ending cycle where if we are helping feed the ones that are starting out, we can kind of help increase the quality and the product that we're delivering, and it just kind of goes full circle for everyone.
Yeah, it's all relative, right?
So I know flash drive is in your name, but I know there's many other things that you guys offer besides flash drive. So there's a lot of practical things that we were talking about that I think are obvious for photographers and videographers. Obviously photographers doing that thumb drive and a custom made little wooden box is a really cool way to give them the digitals as opposed to just giving them a Dropbox link. And same with videographers, the playbooks that you guys have, I think are such a cool way to be able to share. Those actually helped us be able to stop doing DVDs because people always wanted to have something, and
Yep.
oftentimes the thumb drive wasn't enough. So
Yep.
then when we started doing the video, well, we call them video albums, but like the playbook, it really helped us get away from the old tech and start embracing this new tech. And so I think those are very practical. And I know you guys do like custom hard drives and things like that. But what are some of the other things that you guys do that could especially benefit, say a wedding DJ or a wedding planner or a wedding venue, everyone else in the industry?
Yeah, at one level, of course, we all understand in business, you have marketing, you have business promotion, you have branding and those kinds of things. But an area where I think we get the most joy in helping people is where we can have a meaningful impact on their business. And I'll come back to the question, but for a wedding photographer, what we're trying to help with is ceremonial deliverable, keepsake, um, surprise and delight is a big one. And I go to almost all of our shows pre-COVID, of course, because a trade show feeds me. I have a chance to meet with our customers, friends in the industry. I love having conversations with people who are brand new to the business. And with permission, I share with them. I'm never trying to sell anything other than a good idea. And if I've sold you a good idea and you choose to buy from someone else, that's really okay with me. So I love having conversations with photographers about how other photographers are being successful. Of course, I'm not violating any confidences. And I can tell you, I think about 60 to 70% of photographers don't know what surprise and delight is. And if they don't really know what it is, they don't know how powerful it can be. And whenever I have this conversation, I give a nod to Seth Godin, the marketing guru, because as near as I can tell, he coined the phrase surprise and delight. And the definition that I like is it's about giving your customers something they hadn't expected. But when it's done really well, it's about giving them something they hadn't imagined. And it feeds me because when we create products and services, we're thinking about how can we give you surprise and delight tools. Going back to Seth Godin, I've read a quote where he says, fundamentally, he thinks it's the only reason the business should exist to surprise and delight its customers. And, I have a difficult time arguing against that, because at the end of the day, it is the happy customer that comes back and buys more and that tells other people. And that's what we want. We want the repeat business and we want the referral. So here's the thing though. Some people think surprise and delight has to be expensive, but it doesn't. We have some wedding planners. We have a box. You may be familiar with it, Travis. It's called the Custom Image Wine Box. So imagine a bottle of champagne and it's in a beautiful box, just big enough to hold the champagne. It has branding on the outside, has a choice of ribbon colors. And when you give it to your client and they open it up, there's a beautiful signature edit on the inside, and then a bottle of champagne. And it's just a stunning way to give what is otherwise just a bottle of champagne. And I can tell you, I've used it myself in gifting, and it's just fantastic because they have the box and it's something they haven't seen before. And they open it and they see the image and they see what's inside. And it's like, I want to take a picture and put it on the web and say, this is surprise and delight. Um, a DJ, it could be very inexpensive. I don't know. A DJ, I suppose, could take 10 of the asked for songs at the wedding and put it on a mixtape on a flash drive with a picture of the bride and groom. This little bit of thoughtfulness to give somebody something they hadn't expected is investing in that asset, which is your customer relationship. Then at the product level, well, it's gifts, it's branding and promotion tools, it's personal branding tools. We can help with all of those things, but we really like to focus on surprise and delight.
What I think is interesting too, you were kind of talking about the DJ example. I know a few DJs where they'll have the bride and groom read letters to each other, kind of like what we do in our films, but they'll have
Yep,
them do it like even before the wedding. And
yep,
he'll kind of go to the bride's house, he'll record her part, he'll go to the groom's house, he'll record that part, and then he'll surprise play it at some point during the reception, usually like their first dance or something.
yep.
And typically, then what he does is he just hands it over to them on a link. But it would be even more special, for him to load up those files he has, put them onto a flash drive, mail it to them, and it's a custom little made box with their names. And it's just something little extra as opposed to just like, okay, like he's already gone this far where he's gone above and beyond by recording this audio, but then he kind of like drops it on the 50-yard line. I'm not much of a sports fan. I'm doing a sports analogy. I think I got it right. But yeah, so he drops it at the very end, but it's like he could go even more above if he like sent them that audio and it's on this little thing that they'll have forever. And then maybe one day their kids will discover that flash drive and be like, what is this? Whereas they're less likely to discover an email that's from, 10 years ago that's long gone and they can't find it anymore.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and we need to do a better job, I suppose, of encouraging this. And I think wedding and videographers probably need to think about this. And that is, you want to continue the happy customer experience beyond the event itself. In a perfect world, you want the probability of your name coming up after the event to be higher for that referral sale and feed into the business. And you guys just do amazing work in this window of time, and then it's over. Now, your amazing work is certainly showing in the album, and it's showing hopefully in some wall art, and it's showing in some other things. But the question is, are they conversation triggers after the event? And I think if you've guys focus on how can I create conversation triggers so that the probability of my name coming up in that conversation, that whole word of mouth goes up. And physical helps do that. Something that's sitting in someone's home where somebody says, "Oh, that's cool. Where'd you get that?" There's your conversation, and there's your next potential lead.
What are some clever gift ideas you have? Sometimes we think of like, okay, after the wedding, maybe like when they first book, but are there other areas during the timeline we could be gifting them?
Yeah, oh, sure there are. I mentioned the custom image wine box, of course, a DJ, a wedding planner, a videographer, anybody at a 1 year anniversary. Here's the other thing, and some folks are still in a planning phase for 2021 because the reality is it's still unfolding. So my plan isn't even set in stone. Normally, we'd be locked down, our plan, this is what we're doing, but we have a lot of flex in our plan right now because it's still unfolding. So for those with flex in their plan, I'd really encourage people to look at one, surprise and delight, and two, gratitude and appreciation. And if you don't have a line item in your budget for those two things, and by the way, they can be separate things, you probably should put it there because once you have the budget, you allow yourself the freedom to have these ideas, right? And then those budgets need to be aligned, I think, if we're being realists, with the value of your client. So I remind photographers, rich people hang out with rich people. If you're doing business with a millionaire client, then you might want to amp up the gift a little bit because surprise and delighting them may be more challenging than surprise and delighting, someone who's not a millionaire client. So custom image wine box is great at the 1 year anniversary. We have a drop dead gorgeous charcuterie board made of harvested French hardwood. It's got beautiful hand forged steel on it that can be branded or marked with a thank you. I guarantee you, if you give that to a millionaire client, every time they have a social event, they're going to put it out there and somebody's going to say, "My God, that's beautiful. Where'd you get it?" And they're going to say, "I got to tell you, I know the best photographer in town because, Travis gave that to me." Um, water bottles and drinkware, like flash drives so many years ago, we started with one in two colors. And now we've expanded into this incredible and growing line of drinkware because if you buy one and you carry it around, well, that's personal branding. Put the logo out, people know you're a photographer. You buy three or four of them, you give them to the people who desperately want to see you be wildly successful because they're carrying your brand. Again, you're trying to get these conversation points that drive these leads. Senior high school photography are giving the water bottles to their senior models and ambassadors and those kinds of things. And we have everything that costs as little as $5 to the most expensive item is that charcuterie board at $250.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think that's still pretty reasonable, like that's if you're doing your kind of budgeting of your business correctly, you should always be leaving a little bit in there, I think, for kind of marketing fees, which, might be ads, which a lot of people think about, but, giving gifts can be a marketing fee, and that's something you should almost be always planning on doing every year because you're just putting yourself back in front of people again and they're remembering you and they're going to appreciate the gift. And like you were even saying, when they have a social event, when it's time to cut up the vegetables or cheese or whatever it is, it's like there's your name right there right in front of them. What that also kind of makes me think of too is we're kind of talking about your clients and gifting them, but what are your thoughts even with gifting like your partners, people that are referring you, and do you have some like clever ideas for things like that to kind of give back to those that are giving you business?
Yeah, well, first, I would say to folks listening, most of our clever ideas come from the marketplace. I think I said earlier, I'm not a shooter. I don't even own an SLR. And, when we go to trade shows, we have people say, could you do this? Could you do that? I would put my email out, Brian at PhotoFlashDrive, BRIAN. And whether you're a videographer or you're a small business within this space, if there are product ideas that you've had that you say, this is something I really would like to have to give to my clients, let us know. I can't promise to do it, but we love to create from those ideas. But it's really a range of things. We've introduced a line of what we call carriage collection. So these are small wallets for holding credit cards. They could be used for giving gift cards as well. So sometimes the appropriate gift is a $10 Starbucks card, right? But now if you have a little carriage collection sleeve, well, maybe that can have your logo on it. And then you deliver the Starbucks card in the logo just to amp it up a little bit more. We have gifting bags in the carriage collection. So maybe you're going to someone's house. I've heard from a lot of photographers, they don't like to go to someone's house for the first time empty handed. So you might bring a bottle of wine or snacks or something. And so now we have these bags that you can put your logo on and you can deliver it. So it's, we all like a little bit of a touch of class. But here again, I think the perception sometimes is that these things have to be expensive or you have to buy a whole bunch of them. And neither of those things have to be true, right?
hmm Yeah, and I love what you're talking about too with the Starbucks gift card, where maybe wedding planner goes onto your site and they're like, like none of this is really fitting, but just some of the options you guys offer that is allowing them to maybe brand the gift ideas they have is good too, because it kind of goes back to always thinking of ways to kind of put your brand out there and just be found that way. And I think that's great, and that's one thing I've noticed about you guys too is like kind of that over the past few years, kind of that addition of like not just being this is for photographers who want to give out their files in a more creative way, but just becoming almost this like company that's like focused on helping companies brand themselves more. And I think us in the wedding business, going back to what you're talking about, a lot of us start because it's a passion. So we start as just a kind of a freelancer and we're like, okay, this is fun. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy this better than my 9 to 5. I'm going to try to just do this full time. And then next thing we know, we're needing to set up like an LLC and a bank account and all these other things. And then we totally miss the fact that we like don't have any branding, like nothing is consistent. We're using like 20 different fonts. And so I love that you're kind of partnering with those people that I think need that help a lot, because a lot of times we're very creative set and we understand branding, but we understand branding like for our clients and we're not doing it for ourselves a lot of times. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't that funny? And like you know, in this crisis with COVID, you asked yourself, how can I better serve my customers? And we ask ourselves that as well. You know, if you have something in life that you enjoy, and in my case, I love my job and I love the business that we're in, and I love the industry and the customers. I want to make sure we continue to serve well. And you're exactly right. We've looked at this, and this has also been through discussions with customers. You know, what else can we help with? Gifting, business promotion, personal branding. But we need to help with the same brand promise. You know, the no minimums and the no setups and the quick turnaround time and the appropriate quality. You know, because quality is a spectrum, right? And over here, it's good quality at a lower cost, and over here, it's good quality at a higher cost. So we're bringing the things we've done in presentation and flash drives and packaging, we're bringing to these other three areas of gifting and business promotion and personal branding. You know, now you can get an individual T-shirt with your logo on it. Now, I know you can buy that from 100 different people, but there's only a handful that you can buy from that understand you, that are going to get it right most of the time. That if they don't get it right, they're going to say, "No, my bad. Let me fix that for you right away," because we get it. You guys are busy. You know how many female photographers are wives and moms and active in the community, and they're artists, and they have to be business people. And you know, on the rare occasion we make a mistake, I say to our team, they don't have the time to deal with a mistake, you know? So we understand you, and we think there's more that we can help with.
I'll kind of speak on what you're talking about with the, making sure there's no mistakes. Like I've even had times where there was a mistake and it was my fault. Like I was like, oh no, I didn't upload that right. And they were so cool about like making sure that it was like, okay, we're gonna change this to make sure it's printed right and stuff. And I caught it before it, I think, got down the print line, but they'd sent me the proof and I was like, this is not correct. And I'm like, wait, this was my fault. And then I'm like, I think there's a mistake here. And they were totally cool about it. Where, if you're going to like a huge corporation where they're going to do like hundreds and hundreds of your things, like they're not going to care. They're going to be like, all right, well, this is what you're getting, and it's going to be totally wrong. So I really appreciate that with you guys, just your willingness to always be ready to fix things and just make sure that it's like right, because like you were saying, we're really busy and it can be hard to be going back and forth on something. We just kind of want to place the order and know that it's going to be good and it's going to arrive and the client's going to love it.
So I'll tell you a story. It's a Playbook story. It just happened in the last couple of days. A woman wanted a Playbook for a birthday gift, and kind of waited to the last minute. And the full wraps take us a little longer to make than the so-called classic. And it was our mistake because we didn't set the right expectation, and we weren't able to deliver it on time. And we felt terrible because she wanted it for this event. So she canceled the order. The book was already made. So we did what we do. We called her, and of course we said apologies for that. We would like to send it to you anyhow. We refunded her money, and she can give it as a gift, even though it won't be the first time the person sees the video. He'll still have the video. She was over the moon. So I had a choice there, right? I could have lost a customer, or I could have the possibility of a customer for life. And I think we have the latter, because she came right back to us and said, "Oh my God, this is incredible." You know? So mistakes happen. Sometimes they're your mistakes, and even when our customers make mistakes, we fix it, and we don't charge for it. And sometimes it's our mistake, but you got to make it right, quickly.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. We can't take it personally either. It's like, well, we messed up, fix it, and then keep going, and hopefully they'll still be your client, and you build that loyalty and trust with them. So,
That's right. Yeah.
So, are there any new products that you guys are working on that you would like to tell us about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, in the next, I don't know when this will be broadcasting, but here at the end of March, we will be introducing custom glassware. And so I think this will be interesting to many in the wedding space and certainly in the wedding ecosystem. So this is stemless wine glasses and rocks glasses or whiskey glasses and pint glasses. And we've invested in technology that allows us to do full print from the top to the bottom. We just leave a little area for where you drink and to do a full wrap print. So you could do just fantastic shots of the bridal party wrapped around pint glasses, a picture of the bride and groom. For in-person selling, you could have beautiful glassware with your logo on one side. You could have a his and hers or a commemorative date. And these, again, no minimums, very affordable. We're using a technology that allows us to pre-treat the glass. So it will stand up to 300 dishwasher cycles. Now, I'd still encourage people to hand wash, because you want to keep this for a long, long time. But the good news is if it ends up in the dishwasher, it's going to stand up to that. So we're really excited about that. Um, we're working on another version of Playbook. This has come at the request of some customers who would like to buy a set of 10 of them and have them in the studio for in-person selling. So currently with Playbook, you order online, you upload your logo or a picture or whatever you like, and we print that on the cover, or we print the cover and wrap it. But imagine a playbook that has a slot for a slip in of a 4x6 picture. So now in an IPS environment, you can put a signature picture on the front, show it to the client, and they're going to fall madly in love with it. But if you're wrong, you can just take the picture out and reuse it for the next client.
That's a
So
great idea. I love that because that's something we have a few, and I gotta say too, back when there were things like wedding shows, we would do a few here and there, and those things were always like such an awesome asset to have like at the show because what would happen is, especially at the time, like I jumped on it like pretty early, and then I had a show right after, and I don't even think you guys had the photo wrap option yet at that time. It was just the
that's right.
classic.
Yeah.
And just even with that, I ordered a couple of them. I just put like a kind of fake couple's name on the front and put some of our films. And so when someone would come up to our booth, they would like, they'd start just kind of asking questions of like, here, look at this. And then like they would open it and they would just be like, so interested in that and like I want to get more information, and that was a way for them to kind of remember us, like a touch point where they remembered us. And it would be really cool to have that option to kind of almost customize it. So like if we're at a show and it's like in Chicago, we could have like city, like maybe like a city couple, and then have city couples like in the videos and stuff. Or like if we're meeting with a client, like you said, we could actually like print out their names, have their names on it, and then be like, hey, look, and they're like, hey, wait a second, that's our names.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds awesome to have.
And if we can spend just a minute on Playbook, some folks don't know what it is. You can go to photoflashdrive.com. I think it's in the header, but you can also put in the keyword Playbook. And a couple of things I'd like to touch on. One, of course, it's a hardcover, soft touch, auto playing, slideshow, and video presentation tool to be used both by photographers and videographers. Wedding planners could create a slideshow of their prior events. It's, as you know, got chaptering, pause and play. The photographer or videographer actually loads their own content through a USB port, a rechargeable battery, 4 gigs or 32 gigs. We're not trying to replace anything. We're not trying to displace an album, for example. We developed this for people to tell their story and show their work in compelling ways and to engage their client in unique and exciting ways. People are using it as a portfolio tool. They're using it to get people to step up to packages. When there were the wedding fairs, great application. One gentleman has it in the booth. And then when he has that one wedding that he really wants, when he calls back, he uses it as a closing tool. We see many people who are selling them back into prior events. So look back at the weddings you've done in the last year and the last 2 years, and around the anniversary or around the holidays. This is something that you can offer for purchase a year and two out, kind of this hidden revenue in those relationships. My buddy Rafael Sereno, wedding photographer in Texas, uses it to deliver same day edit at the wedding. So when they leave, they take that with them. And then he asks them to bring it in studio for the IPS session. And in his case, he's actually delivering the digital files on the playbook as well as the video file. So, and I want to offer a special. I don't know how we're going to execute some offers on a podcast, but one idea is if you've watched the podcast and you want a special offer on Playbook, kind of the Brian Campbell VIP offer, friend of Travis kind of thing. Um, Send me an email, Brian at PhotoFlashDrive. Tell me you watch this. Tell me you're intrigued by Playbook, and I'll probably give you an offer that's going to be super hard to refuse. I do things like 50% off, get a playbook for $50, and I'll give you a $50 voucher. So it's almost like a no risk way to try it. And then I say, you need to think about what are your objectives and how do you use this tool to help you with those objectives.
Yeah, that's great. I'll make sure to put your email in the show notes. I believe I got a coupon code from you guys too, so I'll drop that in there too. So if you're wanting to try any other, flash drive or the glassware, because that should be out by the time this goes live too. If you
Yeah,
want to try
yeah.
any of that, I have, I think it's a 15% off coupon code too. So I'll drop that in there too.
Yeah, and the other thing I would touch on is, we offer 50% off on samples across almost all products, because we know some people want to get their logo on something and touch and feel it. Some decisions are made by committee. So we make it very affordable for you to try different products, flash drives, packaging, gift items, playbook. You can try one for 50% off. You would go to the website and just type in, or the FAQ area, type in samples, and it tells you how to do that.
Yeah. And going back to the playbook, one of the things I found a way to use it too is using it as a gift. So outside of weddings, we were doing a lot of real estate related stuff last year, just because of kind of the nature of COVID and people not being able to see homes. A lot of these real estate agents are looking for more clever ways to show properties and show themselves and market themselves. So there were a couple of agents that I did a lot of videos with last year. And so what I did is I ended up creating an album for both of them, and I put like their name with their logo. I asked them for like I probably already had a high res version of their logo because the videos, and then I put their contact information on the back, and I put like five of like probably the top five of what we did last year on there. And then just around Christmas time, the next time I shot with them, I had that in my car, and then I'm like, hey, I got a Christmas gift for you, and they're probably thinking it's gonna be like a gift card or something, and they open it up, and it's like a book with like some of the best properties that they sold, and I'm like, and here's a USB cord too, like from here on out, this is how you could like show people what makes you different. And
Yeah.
they thought it was like they were so shocked, like they just didn't even expect it. They're like, oh, he's giving me like Panera gift card, but then here's this like awesome little book that has like their properties in it, and it has the ability for them to even add more. So they really loved it.
And I love hearing that, because you and I have talked about this. Playbook was a passion project for me, to create something that enables that kind of thing. Yeah. So, lots and lots and lots of creative ways to use it. And hey, if you have it in your product lineup, it's not for everybody. But here's the point: if you're showing your prospect something that your competition isn't, that accrues to your advantage, whether they buy it or not, right? There's a progressiveness to that that may very well be the reason why you get the business, right?
Yeah. Well, Brian, what I would love to have you leave our listeners with one last piece of business advice. So I'll throw it out to you. It can be anything you want to leave us with.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm in my office upstairs with this banner behind, but I spend an awful lot of time down on the floor, and it's really uh, simple. And at my floor desk, I have a banner that says, "It's simple. Happy customers buy more, and they tell other people." And companies large and small get in trouble when they lose sight of that. We exist because of the customer. We have to take good care of the customer. So my advice to everybody is never, never, never lose sight of that. Be in tune with your customers, be in tune with your market. If you take good care of them, they will take good care of you. And we are living proof of that, because we went into this pandemic and I had the same grave concerns everybody else did. 70% of our business is selling to professional photographers and videographers whose business is based on social events, weddings, and these kinds of things. I was scared. But because we have engaged and supported what I say are the right customers, business people who are invested and persevered, our business survived, right? And we're all going to have a fantastic year this year. You're seeing the GDP numbers coming out of economists in the US talking about 6, 7, 8% growth this year. So pay attention to your customers. Happy customers come back and buy more. They tell other people, you take good care of your customers, they'll take good care of you. That's my advice.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. And again, if you made it to the end of the podcast and you've not heard of Photo Flash Drive till now, definitely go to their website, photoflashdrive.com, and check out some of their products and definitely start finding ways to utilize what they do. And Brian, I will get your email and I'll put it in the show notes. So like if you guys are looking for some clever ideas or you want to run some things by Brian, I'm sure he would love to chat.
Absolutely.
And yeah, thank you again, Brian. I appreciate your time being on
All
the
right,
podcast.
Travis, all the best. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Have a good one. Thanks again.